On the day of the car crash, my partner was throwing a party for her first love's birthday. I didn't make it, lying on the sidewalk clutching our sick kid while waiting for help. When I woke up, I was back in my high school days. A sweet and innocent girl in the back seat blushed and asked if I wanted to be her boyfriend. No way, that's so gross. Don't ever say that again. Everyone at Riverside High was buzzing about it. Jake, Jamie's biggest fan, had fallen for someone else. During morning study time, he didn't bring Jamie her usual milk, nor did he help her with her chores during breaks. Even when Jamie had a stomach ache, he didn't skip class to get her some warm milk and make her rose sugar water like he always did. He'd been trying to win her over for almost a year and was just throwing in the towel now. Maybe he's having a meltdown, waiting for Jamie to soften him up. I think he's moved on. I heard the top girl from Lincoln High is also after him. With a slam, Jamie angrily tossed her English book onto the desk. It was study time again. If you want to gossip, do it outside. As soon as she finished, I happened to head to the door. The classroom went quiet, dozens of eyes fixed on me. Ignoring them, I walked back to my seat, pulled out the chair, and sat down. When I opened my backpack, there were 2 bottles of milk inside. Guess the maid at home used to heat 2 glasses of milk and forgot I only needed to bring one from now on. Jamie's deskmate, Mia, nudged her arm and whispered, "Jake's trying to make up with you?" I told her he couldn't hold out much longer. Jamie's eyes flickered, but instead I handed the milk to my deskmate. "Here, for you." Ryan looked shocked and unsure. "For me?" I nodded. Then I opened my Chinese textbook and started reading quietly. Ryan leaned over, curious. "Why you hitting the books?" Without looking up, I said, "I want to get into Class A next semester. I got into Riverside with the 2nd highest score in the city, but just to be in the same class as Jamie." I purposely left a bunch of questions blank during the first monthly exam and bounced from class to Class F like I wanted. But now, I had no reason to stay in this class anymore. Thinking about how the girl behind me would later become my partner 9 years later, but had put sleeping pills in our hungry kid's bottle to rush to her first love, causing our car accident on a snowy night en route to the hospital. I can't forgive her. So, let's end this messed up relationship early. At noon, Ryan and I headed to the cafeteria after the cook served me the ribs I wanted. He grinned and asked, "What you getting for Jamie today?" "We got her favorite squirrel fish." I paused, reminiscing about my bold and enthusiastic chase after Jamie in high school, filling her desk with love notes I wrote, confessing loudly on the stage during flag raising despite the principal's warnings. Even the cafeteria cook knew her favorite dishes. Everyone knew I liked Jamie. It was like banging my head against a wall and never looking back. Now that I think about it, it was all a joke. I shook my head. "I'm not getting her food anymore." I paused and added, "And I won't be getting it for her in the future either." The cook's hand was about to serve the squirrel fish. I paused, grabbed Ryan, and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, I bumped into Jamie at the end of the hall. Our eyes met, and she looked stunned. I quickly looked away and left without turning back. Ryan whispered, "Jake." "What's up with you? Why did you suddenly stop paying attention to Jamie?" I sat at the table, mixing rib soup with white rice. "Nothing. I just thought it was pointless before. After I stopped making Jamie the center of my life, I realized how much free time I actually had. Playing basketball with my friends, arm wrestling, pulling out old test papers and practice books I'd tossed into my desk and finishing them little by little. A high school life without constantly stressing about her turned out to be so youthful and awesome. A few days passed like this. Then our school's dance competition came around. The homeroom teacher told us to head to the playground to cheer for our classmates. I remembered in my past life, I bought all the flowers from nearby shops to support Jamie's dance club. I even arranged petals on the ground to spell out "Dancers, chase your dreams." Even though the thorns on the flower branches pricked my palms. Chase your dreams. Even with the thorns piercing my hands and making them bleed, it still felt worth it. In the end, Jamie's dance team won the competition with a high score. Amidst all the applause and congratulations, her eyes were on her teammates and the honor. Not on me. So this time, I used the excuse of feeling sick to ask the teacher for leave and stayed in the classroom alone to memorize English words. Such stupid and ridiculous things. I don't think I'll ever do those again in this life. Ryan came back halfway and said to me, "Today, Jamie was totally off her game while dancing. Her eyes kept looking at the audience like she was searching for someone." After that, he looked at me again. "Jake, could she be looking for you?" "No." I finished writing a line of English words and calmly denied it. At this moment, Jamie practically had "dislike Jake" written all over her face. Me not going would make her happy. Ryan kept talking about the dance competition. I wasn't in the mood to listen, but didn't want to cut him off, so I used the excuse of going to get hot water. Who knew? As soon as I stepped out of the classroom, a few people were rushing toward me. I was about to sidestep when Mia, supporting Jamie, shouted at me, "Jake, don't you have a pain relief spray? Hurry and get it for Jamie. She's hurt." I did prepare a small medicine box because Jamie loves to dance. It has lots of imported meds that you can't get easily, really good for injuries. But last time she won the competition, so why is she hurt this time? "Jake, why are you just standing there?" Mia said anxiously. I snapped back to reality, glanced at Jamie's swollen ankle, and said indifferently, "It's expired. I threw it away." After saying this, I grabbed my water cup and headed to the water room, not even glancing back. What am I thinking? Her injury. What does it have to do with me? The pain I went through before was way worse than hers. What reason do I have to feel bad for her? Behind me, Mia gasped. I felt a piercing stare on my back, like someone trying to drill a hole through me. Because of her foot injury, Jamie took a few days off and hadn't attended school for 2 days. When my mom heard about it, she had the maid make some bone broth and insisted I deliver it to Jamie to help her recover. Our families were close friends, and Jamie had grown up under my mom's watchful eye. She wouldn't be at ease unless I personally visited and showed my concern. Despite my repeated protests, I couldn't resist my mom's persistent demands. She even told the driver to make sure I got to Jamie's doorstep directly to stop me from bailing halfway. Reluctantly, I took the chicken soup to Jamie's house. It was late afternoon, and the sycamore leaves rustled in the wind. I wrapped my thin jacket tighter as I got out of the car and saw a white 3-story house. The last rays of the setting sun cast an annoying orange glow over it. It was all too familiar. As a kid, I often visited her home, and we even lived together there for almost 2 years. Every corner of this place was filled with our memories. Her feeling down after a breakup, and me, comforting her despite my own heartbreak. Her promising to be good to me for life, and me, naively believing her. My heart felt like it was being ripped apart. The pain made me tremble all over. After a while, I calmed down, opened the thermos, and the delicious smell of bone broth floated out. I placed it on the ground and fed it to a stray dog. Such good stuff. She didn't deserve it. After the dog finished the broth, I prepared to leave, just as I turned around. Someone called my name. The voice was childish, yet familiar, and I didn't even bother to turn around. Jamie quickly approached me, hobbling on her crutches and nearly falling in front of me. Sweat dotted her fair forehead, and she spoke with a hint of frustration. "Jake, what the hell is wrong with you?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. The girl in front of me, insanely beautiful, was once my favorite. I curled my lips into a cold, indifferent smile. "I don't get what you're saying." Then I kept walking forward. She quickly blocked my way again, her chest heaving and her lips pale. It was clear those few steps were painful and tough for her. "Why are you ignoring me?" Jamie's eyes filled with confusion, like she wanted to read something from my face. But she couldn't figure it out. She pointed to the food container on the ground. "That bone broth was for me. Why did you feed it to a dog? You used to always come to my house even when I didn't let you. Today, you didn't show up. I've been hurt for days, and you haven't shown any concern. What exactly— Isn't this better?" I interrupted her coldly. "You find me annoying in some way." Jamie was momentarily stunned, then nodded after a moment. "Yeah, I don't like you clinging to me. I feel happy when you're away from me." After saying this, she stared at me and pulled out a mocking smile. "Jake, you better not be trying some trick to get my attention. You know I hate that." A trick? No surprise Jamie would think that. In my past life, I did a lot of childish and stupid things to get her attention. Although I eventually made her my partner, I never truly won her heart and ended up dying miserably on the street. So in this life, I won't waste any more time or feelings on her. You're overestimating yourself. I don't have time to play games with you. I pulled my lips into a cold, emotionless smile. The bone broth was something my mom insisted the driver and I bring. Just pretend you drank it and don't give me any trouble. Jamie's eyes were filled with disbelief. You think of me as a dog? I shrugged. If that's what you think, I can't help it. After saying this, I didn't give her a chance to argue and walked away. Seeing her in class every day was tough enough. Now I just wanted to disappear. I had only taken a few steps when the thermos flew through the air, crashing to the ground with a loud bang. Then Jamie's furious voice rang out. "I don't need your stupid soup." Since the soup incident, Jamie and I hadn't spoken. I stopped involving myself in anything related to her, no longer clinging to her for approval. Instead, I focused entirely on my studies, aiming to return to Class A as soon as possible. Once I'm back in class, I won't have to see her every day. In 2 years, during the college entrance exams, I won't stay in the same city as her. Watching her break up and get back together with her first love, going through constant emotional turmoil, I plan to escape as far as possible, hoping never to cross paths with her again in this lifetime. However, the high school curriculum was pretty tough for me now, so I asked my mom to find a tutor for me. Among many candidates, I chose Sophie, who was in the same grade in school, but from Class A. She was the top student who had beaten me in the high school entrance exam and was known as a super scholar. Our first conversation was very brief. I said, "I want to improve my grades as quickly as possible and get back to Class A." She said, "Leave it to me." I started getting closer to Sophie. Whenever I hit a tough problem, I'd save them up and ask her during breaks in Class A. I even studied with her at a nearby fast food joint after school. Gradually, new rumors started circulating at Riverside High. People said that I, the legendary simp, had switched targets and was now bothering the beautiful scholar under the guise of studying. This caused frustration among Sophie's fanboys, and one day after school, they blocked me behind the teaching building. "Jake, stay away from Sophie. A bottom feeder from Class F like you has no right to be around her." The boy who spoke had a buzz cut, a strong build, and well-developed muscles. He was clearly an athletic type from Class C. The three behind him, though not as tall, also looked fierce. They quickly formed a circle, trapping me in the middle. I calmly said, "Sophie is my tutor. I pay her, and she provides a service. I'm not taking advantage of her at all." The buzz-cut boy sneered. "Tutor? That's just an excuse for you to get close to Sophie, isn't it? Jake, you're shameless. You used all sorts of tricks to chase Jamie, and now that you can't get her, you're bothering Sophie. As a guide, I'm embarrassed for you. Yuck, you're disgusting. She never liked someone like you who's addicted to chasing girls and doesn't study. Sophie is a good student. If her grades drop because of you affecting her future college prospects, can you take responsibility?" I felt a bit speechless. Yeah, I admit I used to be a bit of a lovesick fool, but I've mended my ways and am focusing on my studies now. How could Sophie tutoring you cause them such displeasure? Besides, I'm paying for the service. Enough talking. The buzz-cut boy lost his patience, took a step forward, and bumped his chest against mine. "If we don't teach you a lesson, you won't realize your mistake." With that, the other guys rolled up their sleeves, ready to act. "What are you doing?" At that moment, Sophie arrived, grabbed my wrist, and pulled me to her side. She was petite, with a cute bun, but stood straight with an air of undeniable authority. The guys immediately dropped their fierce looks when they saw her, even showing some innocent charm. They changed expressions faster than a Sichuan opera face change. "Sophie, don't be fooled by Jake. He's just a player. He couldn't get Jamie, so now he's after you." We're doing this for your own good. If this loser from Class F affects your studies, what will you do? He just wants to date you, unlike us who genuinely care about you. Sure, sure. They called me a player while trying to butter her up. Sophie cut them off sharply. Jake is my employer. Her loud voice even surprised me. She stood in front of me, announcing boldly, I rely on him for my livelihood. Anyone who cuts off my source of income will face my wrath. A middle schooler acting tough. With that, she pulled me away quickly under their astonished gazes. Once outside the school, she checked me closely, turning my arm this way and that. Did you get hurt? I shook my head. She sighed in relief. Good, I'll handle those guys. They won't bother you again. You won't stop letting me tutor you because of this. Will you? I dared to say, no one can teach you better than I can. Seeing my silence, she got a bit anxious. I'll take care of your classroom duties. I'll also fetch hot water for you until you graduate. From now on, you're under my protection. She looked up at me, her eyes bright like grapes, and a sweet lychee scent wafting from her. Okay, Jake. I couldn't help but smile. Such a small girl. Where did she get the guts to stand in front of a nearly 6-foot-tall guy like me to protect me? So I nodded. Actually, Sophie had a great way of explaining things. Changing tutors suddenly would be inconvenient. She relaxed. From now on, I come to your class. Let them talk about me. Her arrival immediately caused a stir in the class. Under the watchful eyes of dozens of students, Sophie calmly walked over to me, naturally took the pen from my hand, glanced at the math problem I couldn't solve, and quickly wrote out the solution on a scrap paper. I gave her a thumbs up in admiration. A top student is indeed a top student. Behind me, Mia nudged Jamie's arm and whispered, That's Sophie, the one who's been close to Jake lately. Jamie snorted coldly and turned her head to continue touching up her makeup. But after just a few seconds, she sat up straight and kicked the leg of my chair hard, showing her dissatisfaction. She said, Jake, you're disturbing my rest. I frowned at her. I had been silently looking at the problem and hadn't made a sound. Moreover, the entire class was nosy with chatter and play. There were plenty of noses louder than mine. So I ignored her and continued discussing the problem with Sophie. Suddenly, a ballpoint pen flew from behind and hit my notebook, leaving a long black line. Damn it, I had just solved that problem. Jamie leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, looking defiant. We in Class F don't welcome people from Class A sensible and leave. A bottom of Class F doesn't welcome a top student. That's just picking a fight. I took a deep breath and retorted, Jamie, if you're sick, take medicine. Don't act crazy here. Jamie's face darkened completely, her big eyes glaring at me. Mia and Ryan beside her gasped in shock. I glared at her, then turned to pack up my books. Sophie, let's go to the rooftop. Don't mind the lunatic. After saying that, I grabbed Sophie's hand and walked out. The nosy classroom fell silent, and all eyes were on us. Behind me, Mia whispered, Wow, is he really with Sophie? Jamie looked complicated but said nothing. Due to Jamie's outburst, the long break was almost over. Sophie and I agreed to meet at the milk tea shop after school to study. However, when evening came and I was packing up to leave, Jamie appeared at the classroom door. Given her behavior during the day, I didn't want to waste words and prepared to ignore her. She blocked my way. You want to get into class, huh? I replied impatiently. Yeah, so what? I'll help you find a tutor, she said. Her voice was unusually gentle and sweet. The best one. No need, I have Sophie. Jamie's expression turned sour, showing anger. What does she know? More than you do. I brushed past her without looking back. Under Sophie's tutoring, my grades improved rapidly. Several small tests yielded good results, but I was still some distance from returning to Class A. One day, while working on a physics test, Ryan ran back with a bag of snacks. We're getting a transfer student. My pen paused. By my calculations, he should be arriving soon. The class bell rang, and just like in my past life, Jamie helped him into the classroom. He had gotten lost on his way to report to Class F and was hit by a basketball, injuring his leg. I looked at Ken's face, which wasn't particularly handsome. He wasn't smart, but he was manipulative and opportunistic. Yet, such a person made Jamie defy her parents' orders and even protest by going on a hunger strike just to make him her boyfriend. I witnessed their entire process of flirting, dating, breaking up, reconciling, and finally breaking up again. I took advantage of her vulnerability back then. Jamie, deeply hurt, drank herself into oblivion, and I stayed by her side. I was there when she drank, smoked, and suffered from insomnia, when she cried. I cried when she laughed. I laughed one night after she got drunk. She untied my belt. The next morning, she was dazed for a long time before saying she wanted to marry me. I laughed until I cried. I thought my deep affection wouldn't be in vain. Who knew that when our kid was just 7 months old, these two went out on a date behind my back? I was just a side note in their grand love story. Ken's seat was arranged in front of mine. Jamie helped him sit down carefully. He thanked her. Jamie shook her head and said, "It's nothing." My heart ached, and I quickly lowered my head, tears welling up and almost falling. In my past life, I was arrogant and never saw ordinary Ken as a threat. But in this life, I just wanted to run away. After school, Sophie came to me. "Jake, your favorite oolong tea." It was funny. Although Sophie was my tutor, logically, I should be the one treating her well. But she always bought me delicious things. She claimed it was to combine work and rest, improving study efficiency. I shook my head. "Sophie, I want a drink." So we went to the night market behind the school, ordering beer and skewers. Since deciding to focus on my studies, every time I met Sophie, it was to study. It was rare to relax like this. During the meal, neither of us spoke. She ate skewers enthusiastically. I drank beer enthusiastically. After eating and drinking, I was so drunk I could barely stand. She immediately reached out to support me. "No need, don't be polite. I ate well, so I'd have the strength to carry you back." Without a word, Sophie lifted one of my arms and placed it over her shoulder, wrapping her arm around my waist. Her soft, fragrant body tried to support a grown man's weight. She was so cute, it pained me and made me want to laugh. "Jake, try to be happy." She stayed by my side, not speaking unless I did. After a while, she finally spoke softly. "I just want you to be happy." I let her support me. My eyes read. I couldn't tell anyone about my past life's experiences. No one could understand my pain. Even though I should hate certain people, in this life, they hadn't done anything wrong yet, and I had no reason to. Sophie supported me the entire way, and I felt miserable the entire time. When we were just a block away from home, I exhaled softly. "Sophie, this life, I'll be willful just this once. From now on, no one can make me cry." Sophie's voice was soft. "If you want to be willful, be willful. I'll comfort you. After all, I'm a good student. I don't need to study hard, so I have plenty of time." A warm feeling filled my heart, and I smiled silently. The midterm exams were approaching. I started studying even harder, hoping to get into Class A as soon as possible. During self-study, Ken threw a paper ball at me, asking me to pass it to Jamie behind me. I was focused on reviewing the key points Sophie had marked for me, and this sudden interruption annoyed me. I remembered in my past life. I also reacted this way, harboring the greatest hostility towards anybody who tried to get close to Jamie. I immediately opened the paper ball, finding a piece of chocolate and a doodle of a little ghost face. I instantly got furious and unceremoniously declared my claim over Jamie, telling him not to waste his time. But during the break, he angrily grabbed Jamie's hand. The look Jamie gave me could have killed. Thinking about it, I just glanced at the paper ball and said, "Dude, it's self-study time. Just because you don't want to study doesn't mean others don't." Ken's face turned red with anger. "It's just a note. Do you really have to be like this? If you love studying so much, why are you in Class F?" Damn it, looking down on me. I'm in Class F because I choose to be, not because I belong here. After saying that, I stood up, gathered my things, and threw them on Ken's desk. If you like passing notes so much, fine. Let's switch seats. Pass them all you want. Ken clenched his fists in anger. Why are you targeting me? I'm not trying to take Jamie from you. I just wanted to thank her. Judging by his defensive tone, he must have heard about my high-profile chase after Jamie. Passing this note was probably just to embarrass me. Too bad. I don't care anymore. First, you can chase whoever you want and thank whoever you want. It has nothing to do with me. Second, I'm giving you a convenient opportunity. You should thank me. Then I pulled him up and sat in his seat. Honestly, I was tired of being stuck between these two. This was a good excuse to leave. In the end, I sincerely hoped these two would stick together and not harm others. At this point, Jamie, who had been touching up her makeup, looked up and frowned at us switching seats. Jake, what do you mean by this? Since she offered to find me a tutor and I refused, we hadn't spoken in a while. I turned and smiled faintly. Just helping you two out. No need to thank me. Jamie's face turned sour. Ken saw the chance to pick up the paper ball. Sorry for disturbing you. It's my fault. Jamie. I noticed she didn't have breakfast. Want some chocolate? Jamie. Still angry, she impatiently slapped the paper ball from his hand. I hate sweets. Ken clenched his fist secretly. I didn't bother watching their daily drama and continued studying. Soon the bell rang. I grabbed my cup to get some water, but Ken grabbed it first with an innocent, pleading look. Jake, I'm sorry for what I said during self-study. Let me get you some water as an apology. Please forgive me. No need. Not letting me get the water means you won't forgive me. You hate me? My temples throbbed. Talking to this guy was exhausting. I just want to be friends. He continued shaking the cup. Don't worry, I'll be quick. Ignoring my protest, he ran out. Ryan was puzzled. Is he okay? I shrugged, showing I didn't understand. About 5 minutes later, Ken came back with hot water. Jake, here you go. As I reached for it, he let go early, deliberately tipping the cup towards him. The steaming hot water spilled out, scalding his hand. Jake, I just wanted to be friends. Why won't you forgive me? His shout drew the entire class's attention. Can you believe it? A 16-year-old playing such childish, disgusting tricks. I used to think that despite his poor background and academic performance, there must be some unknown charm in him that made Jamie so deeply in love with him. But seeing this now, I was about to lose my cool when Jamie rushed over. What happened? Where did you get burned? When Jamie rushed over, what happened? Where did you get burned? Ken showed his red, scalded hand. I'm fine, don't blame Jake. To my surprise, she ignored Ken and came straight to me, checking my hand carefully. Compared to Ken's red, scalded hand, I only had a few red spots. Are you blind? Jamie yelled at Ken. Can't even hold a cup of hot water properly. Her words stunned both Ken and me. Jamie forcefully dragged me to the infirmary. The doctor's exact words were, if you had come any later, the wounds would have healed. Jamie cleared her throat, looking away. On the way back, we walked in silence, almost at the classroom. She suddenly spoke, Jake, switch seats back. Why? A long pause, just before we reached the door. She said, I take back what I said about hating you. After a moment's hesitation, she added, the day after tomorrow is my birthday. The whole class will be there. Can you come? I discovered Jamie was pregnant on her birthday. It started when she, who usually had trouble sleeping, suddenly became lethargic and had an increased appetite. I bought a pregnancy test for her to try, but she impatiently said it was impossible and kept partying. Staying up late, putting on makeup, wearing high heels, and eating irregularly. For her health, I intentionally drained the water from the toilet and tested her morning urine that she forgot to flush. Sure enough, 2 lines appeared. The moment I confirmed she was pregnant, I almost jumped with joy. I even went to the store and bought a gift box with a pair of baby socks inside. I thought this was the best gift from heaven for Jamie and me. She was willing to carry our child, and I wanted to give her a home, to stay with her forever, to give her my life. But much later, I learned from Ken that she had come that day to break up with me. The child was an accident, and she didn't want it at all. But she couldn't tell if it was my child or Ken's. If it was Ken's, she was happy. If it was mine, she hated it. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way she wanted. The child was mine. Memories can be painful. I rubbed my temples. I have something to do. I can't go. Memories can be painful. I rubbed my temples. I have something to do. I can't go. The person behind me stopped, her voice sweet and slightly pleading. It's the way we used to go to. I'll wait for you. I have something very important to tell you. I realized Jamie and Ken were both the same. They couldn't understand human words. They couldn't understand human words. I didn't respond and went straight into the classroom. The days quickly passed, and soon it was 2 days later. All my classmates had prepared birthday gifts for Jamie. Mia had prepared a crystal ball. And Ryan put a bag of crunchy noodles in an empty box. He sneered at me. Jamie used to bully you. Giving her a bag of crunchy noodles is more than she deserves. I smirked, then turned to see Ken place a hairpin in a paper bag. No logo, crudely made, likely bought from a roadside accessory shop. To be honest, he didn't know Jamie never wore unbranded items. I continued my classes, took notes, and did my homework until the school ended. Everyone went to the car Jamie's family had sent. I avoided the crowd, went to an empty corner, took out a paper airplane from my pocket, and burned it with a lighter. In this life, I decided to cut my losses early, stay away from toxic people, and live my life well. I'm doing great, and my future should be fine too. The only regret is the child who was hated by his own mother and died in a car accident. The fire quickly consumed the paper airplane. I thought, if I have a chance to fall in love and get married in this life, please come back and be my child. I'm strong and clear-headed now. This time, I'll protect you. I went home, curled up in bed with a book, and it started to rain heavily outside. At midnight, Jamie called me. I turned off my phone. In the middle of the night, my mom woke me up saying Jamie was in the yard. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was 3 in the morning. The rain hadn't stopped. I went outside. She stood in the drizzle, her hair sticking to her face, her eyes covered with a layer of moisture. Her first words were, "Why didn't you come?" Holding an umbrella. I stood 5 or 6 steps away, not wanting to get closer. The umbrella was small, and I didn't want to share it with her. I never said I would come. Jamie closed her eyes, took a deep breath. Fine, it doesn't matter. She opened her eyes, went to the car to get a cake, and brought it to me. I waited for you to blow out the candles. I didn't move, watching the rain drip from her hair, her lips turning blue with cold. But I didn't feel any sympathy. Our eyes met, and she saw the coldness in mine. Her smile faded, and she sighed. Jake, can't you just give in? Please? Please show some mercy and acknowledge me. Don't look at me like that. My eyes fell on the cake in her hands. In the past, I was always the busiest on her birthday, choosing gifts, baking the cake, writing cards, decorating the venue, etc. I never expected anything in return, nor did I hope to blow out the candles with her. I just wanted her to be happy. I don't know why this Jamie suddenly started caring about me in this life, but belated affection is worth less than grass. I no longer cared. Jamie, don't you understand? I don't like you anymore. Not only do I not like you, but I also don't even want to be friends with you. My words left her stunned. What? I switched seats with Ken to stay away from you. I aimed to get into Class A to be far from you. I used to like you, and it troubled you. I realized my mistake, and I've changed. Jamie shook her head vigorously. No, it's not like that. Jake, I like you. From the moment you ignored me, I realized my mistake. I wanted you to come to my birthday party to confess to you. I prepared flowers, fireworks, a 3,000-word love letter. Too late. Or maybe I'm just too vengeful. I learned my lesson after one heartbreak. Jamie, let's end it here. Don't come to me anymore. Our ties end here, right now. The rain pounded on the umbrella without hesitation. I turned and walked back inside. I was so mean this time. I didn't even leave her the cheap umbrella. The midterm exam results came out quickly. I made it to the school's top 10 and was honored on the honor roll, successfully returning to Class A. On the day I packed up, Ryan hugged me, crying. Jake, I'm really going to miss you. Once you go to Class A, we won't see each other as often. I gently punched his shoulder. I'll come back often to see you. You should work hard too. If you get into Class A, we can be desk mates again. Ryan wailed. You might as well kill me now. Mia gave me a notebook, hoping I would study hard and make progress every day. Becoming the pride of Class F, many other friends who had played with me also said a few words, gave me snacks, and some small trinkets. After saying goodbye to everyone, I prepared to leave with my backpack. Jamie, who had been silent, came over and wanted to see me off. No need, I refused. Jamie's outstretched hand froze awkwardly. At that moment, Sophie walked in from outside, naturally linking her arm with mine, and under Jamie's jealous gaze, escorted me to Class A. At the door, she entered first, hung my backpack on the desk beside her, and pulled out the chair. Her eyes curved in a smile. Welcome back. I smiled, sat down next to Sophie, and extended my hand to her. Nice to meet you again, Sophie. I'm Max from Class A. 2 years flew by in a flash. During this time, Jamie occasionally came to Class A to find me. She brought me meals, water, and an umbrella when it rained. She pursued me as fervently and unconditionally as I had pursued her in the past, but I gave no response. The greatest kindness I could offer in this life was not to hate or seek revenge. I put all my energy into improving myself. My goal was to avoid any more entanglements with these people and not repeat the tragedies of my past life. After the college entrance exams, Class F organized one last gathering where Jamie got drunk. With red eyes, she cautiously approached me, hesitated for a long time, and finally asked, Jake, I just want to know, back then you liked me so much. Why did you suddenly stop liking me? I thought for a moment and softly said, I had a dream. In the dream, you weren't very good to me. I rambled on a lot, and strangely, recounting it now, I felt no emotional stirrings. It was as if the once vivid and painful memories were someone else's story. She listened intently. By the end, her long lashes lowered, and her eyes became as calm as a still autumn lake. I thought she would laugh it off as a bad joke, but she looked at me seriously. Jake, the Jamie of the past life didn't love you, but the Jamie of this life does. I took a sip of my drink, feeling slightly tipsy, but the Jake of this life wasn't planning to wait. When the college entrance exam results came out, I applied to a university in the capital city, a city I liked and a major I was passionate about. I would no longer lower myself or live without a sense of self for anyone or anything. On the day I went to report to school, Jamie came to see me off. In the bustling airport, her eyes were filled with reluctance. She opened her arms and pouted. Jake, you might not see me for a long time after you leave. Can I have a hug before you go? Her college entrance exam results weren't satisfactory, so she chose to retake the year. This goodbye indeed meant we wouldn't see each other for a long time. I took a step back, avoiding her touch. Cutting ties decisively was my approach in this life. Her face was full of disappointment. All right, Jake, wait for me for a year. I'll come find you. I shook my head. I won't wait. Don't waste your time. At that moment, the airport's public announcement system sounded. I turned and left without hesitation, not even saying a polite farewell. Behind me, Jamie's voice called out, I won't listen to you. Jake, I will come find you. I took out my earphones and put them in. On the plane, I found my seat and sat down. Then, a sweet, lychee fragrance wafted over. I turned my head to see a sweet, pretty face. Sophie smiled at me. Jake, for the next 4 years, it's your turn to take care of me. All right.